So let me introduce you to my mother-in-law. I call her mother-in-love. Her name was Dot Little, and she was a force to be reckoned with. She was truly a strong Southern woman. I mean, this woman, even in her 80s, we pulled up to her house one day and she's walking through the yard with two straw bales, and they're like 30 pounds each. She's got one in each hand and she's just trudging across the yard. So this woman was strong physically for the most of her life, mentally, and definitely she had that backbone and that character of there's a right way to do things and there's a wrong way to do things. So when she began to decline in her mental health and we took her into our home, it took us a couple of weeks, as every listener here knows, it took us a couple of weeks to start kind of falling into a routine and a rhythm. But we got her in her little breakfast nook with her every morning, banana cup of coffee and her Rice Krispies or whatever it was that she was having. And then Michael and I would sneak off to the front room and just talk about what we were going to do through the day. And about 2 weeks in, I'm sitting there and I just got the giggles. I just started thinking, we're hiding from your mama. Right? We're in our 60s and we're hiding from your mama. What in the world? It was kind of an awakening moment for me of realizing everything was about to change, but I hadn't really gotten there yet. So here this woman whom I had played the like third fiddle, right? Because I'm not the daughter, I'm the daughter-in-law, I'm the wife of, and suddenly it started to shift how everything was about to play out. And I just know that your friends and listeners will totally relate to that moment of hiding from the person because I was exhausted and trying to find my footing. So she was amazing.
Well, hello, this is Don.
And this is Gina with Focused Healthy Family. This is podcast number 211. And today we have the honor and privilege of talking to our dear friend Jan Luther, the ego tamer, emotional freedom, and mindset mastery coach. So, in today's podcast, we're going to be talking with Jan about the different aspects of grief and dealing with that struggle, caring for an aging loved one, and what we go through with exhaustion. Jan Luther is a master coach, author, and speaker, recognized as a leading authority on the emotional freedom and subconscious reprogramming known as ego tamer, and the chiropractor for your soul. Jan specializes in helping high performance, high performers, leaders, and individuals dismantle the mental and spiritual blockages collectively known as the ego that prevent them from living their divine purpose. I think I'm stumbling because I'm nervous speaking to our wonderful mentor here.
Oh,
So,
no
so
nervous. This is a
glad to
good
have you
thing.
here, Jan.
I'm so
Welcome.
happy to be here. I appreciate you guys so much. You're doing such great work, and I'm for real honored to have the opportunity to speak to your friends and your audience and and let them know how much I believe in you guys and the work that you're doing and your heart. That makes all the difference in the world is the passion and the compassion that you bring to your work is just something to truly be honored, and I do. So thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
I have to say, I attribute what I do to you because of your gentle way of training somebody and teaching somebody something that is a real unique process that I really and I very much enjoy now. And so anyway, you were my mentor, and I loved every moment of that. So
Honored.
anyway, let's get on with the story.
Sure.
So we kind of, you brought it up in the conversation about the identity crisis. So maybe we need to talk a little bit about what that means.
Absolutely. So for me, the first aspect was that morning giggling in my front room was I realized I hadn't really had a mind shift change yet. I realized that I hadn't really had the mindset shift yet, in that I was still thinking of myself as her child. We
Mm,
were still thinking of ourselves as her child. We had kind of delayed bringing her even into our home because we kept having, and again, I'm sure your listeners will understand that feeling of, well, we're not there yet. We're not there yet, until it was almost too late. I mean, for our particular situation, she forgot how to shower. She
Mhm.
forgot how to operate her washing machine, right? It was just everyday stuff that she'd done literally for 80 some years.
Mhm.
So getting our mind into that realization that I was no longer daughter, I was provider. Provider for her health, provided for her safety, provided for her amusement, right? That was something I had to learn along the way, and maybe we'll talk about a little more, is realize I couldn't get too serious because then she would get depressed, right? If I was grumpy and whatever. And then also acknowledging that we were all changing our roles, and that takes a little practice. That takes a little time.
It sure does.
Well, and we talked about, not only do you, the caretaker, change identity, but the person going through it changes. They don't always realize it, especially in dementia, but
Right.
they're going from your mother or mother-in-law to being your patient or your caregiving person that you're dealing with. And so they have to kind of go through a change, even though, like I say, being in dementia, that might be a little
I was going to
difficult.
say, I know my dad fought it. I've driven longer than all these people, and you're telling me I can't drive, right? And I've heard people say, my kids are treating me like I'm their child, and I'm the mother, and I'm still the mother, and they're fighting that, resisting being helped.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because it seems like it's either or, right? Like my mother-in-law had dementia and she was physically not on a single drug. Our father-in-law was physically falling apart, but mentally sharp, right? So it was like so interesting to see
Hmm.
how different you kind of have to juggle, right? As you have to figure out how to find that. And it's definitely harder. I mean, she was no piece of cake, but at least she was more like a teenager and she began to shift as I shifted, that I was her safe place.
Hmm.
And she kind of didn't want to leave sometimes when she would go with her other daughter or whatever. But yeah, it's tricky and there has to be, for me, I always invite agreements and conversations, right?
Hmm.
Is talk to the person if they're very cognitive, talk to them about what has happened, why you're that scares you, how can we work on this together because I'm not trying to parent you, but I also realize that I am now the provider of your and those phrases really work for me. Your health, your safety, your well-being is now primarily my responsibility and I need your help.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, that's powerful. And I just, from the years of working with people in this situation, I see all kinds of family members, but oftentimes they just kind of jump in and take over and then leave those people angry and frustrated. Um, and at the same time, are they speaking up, especially the generational difference of,
Yeah.
um, I get the strong, resistant men who just, not going to let people tell them they can't do things. And then those that just kind of acquiesce and go along with it, but they're not really happy. Um,
Well, I'll just do a confession here that when his dad really started failing physically and he was in the hospital probably for the third or fourth time and it was time for him to go on hospice and they were all doing that. Oh, we're not there yet. I'm like, people, we're there. And he was being a pill. And this girl got so ticked off that I screamed at him and I told him off. And I literally asked him, "What is wrong with you? Can't you see?" Because he was cognitively fine,
yeah.
physically really struggling. And for some reason, I take that as I'm hoping that was a spirit thing because he shifted,
Mm.
right? He realized that if he turned us all off and we stopped caring for him, he was going to be in trouble and he needed to get on board. So I wouldn't advise that to a lot of people, but I just know that we all have to come to a point where it's like, this is how it is, people. We have to come to some kind of agreement. So yeah, it's tricky. And I can only imagine how I would feel, right? Being very autonomous as we are, having someone
Right.
else.
And that's the thing, putting yourself in their shoes. And it's real, right? It happens. I remember one day we moved my dad to an assisted living memory care unit. And one day I was just so frustrated with him. You got there, Don. I'm like, it's all yours. I got to get out of here. Like, as my dad, I was either an angel and he was going to give me this $50,000 or he was writing me out of his will and we had betrayed him. And usually it was the former, but he could be so stubborn and ornery that,
Yeah.
um,
And afraid, right? When I started to realize
yeah,
how much fear, that really helped me because it was a really fearful time for him, for my father-in-law. My mother was kind
sure.
of fine. She was, if I was there, she was not afraid because she knew that I had shifted, right? I had taken on that responsibility, but
Hmm.
for him, there was just so much fear about losing all control and all authority
Yeah.
and dignity, right? There's such a dignity element too.
Oh
So
yeah. Well, when you have to wipe their butt and that kind of thing, I remember my father-in-law the first time I had to do it for him, and it felt very weird for me.
Yes.
And I can only imagine what he was going through, because I think actually the first time I did it, I kind of wiped a little hard, and he went, "What are you doing?" Kind of thing. And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, didn't mean to do that. I haven't wiped a button in quite a long time here, But well, we talked about. I think one of the reasons for this, not this losing the identity, is that they really worry about being overwhelmed and lack of support, but they don't really realize it as a grief thing versus just that
Right.
they need more support.
Right.
Um, so I think that's something, again, I think we need to talk a little bit about that too, is
And I'm
what,
thinking about like my mom, she was his caregiver, and the reason we moved him out was because it was taking a toll on her. And we realized, this is not sustainable for her. And just, yeah, her recognizing, what she was going through. And we kind of really had to step in and, you know, had many talks with my siblings and my mom and just, concerned about her care. So, yeah, especially when you're dealing with a spouse of a caregiver. Um, I think that can be the trickiest role because, yeah, now this is not your partner. Um, it doesn't look the same.
remember he used to split your mom into two people.
Yeah, first we didn't know if he was hallucinating two people, but he'd say there's two Ellens, and
There's this
Yeah.
crabby one
we realized he spoke in metaphors, and that just realizing his personality, yeah,
Yeah.
that he saw her as two different people.
Yeah.
Sometimes she
Because
was
she
real
was.
helpful and wonderful, and he also
Mm.
kind of projected what he was going through on her. Like she's having all these problems. In fact, one time he talked to his sister and she talked to my mom and she's like, "Are you having problems with things? Because, Pete's saying, you're having all these lady problems and all this stuff." But he kind of, the things he would describe with her was kind of like, that's what, you're going through, but I would never say that. But
Hmm.
because with his dementia, the Parkinson's, there was awareness and then there wasn't, and it was messy.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm right now, I've got my oldest brother is now in hospice. We're waiting for any day now for him to go. But my sister, who I was always very close with, about a year ago, she got diagnosed with dementia
With
and
Alzheimer's,
Alzheimer. Yeah,
and
and
it's progressing.
it's gone really fast. I mean, talking to her on the phone is very difficult because there's nothing to the conversation really that makes a lot of sense. She'll dip into a little bit of past stuff.
And
You know, sh
she's like 72, yeah.
yeah.
And his oldest brother has dementia and went into an assisted living, and yeah, now he's really retreating,
Mm.
not even moving around from what we understand. So, yeah, unfortunately, you're knee deep in it with your siblings.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's tricky.
And I'm not even there to be able to kind of help, I'm not sure if that's good or bad in a way,
Right.
but trying to come across with I don't even know what I can offer to help, just
Well,
Mhm.
and what you've been doing though is you've been reaching out to your nieces and nephews, the kids of your brother and
Yes.
sister,
That's
and being
huge.
supportive for them
yeah.
because they're the ones dealing with it. Um, so
Yeah, that's huge. And that's a lot, you guys. Boy, talk about being professional. There's nothing like the authority is the person who's walked through it and comes back to help the people behind them, right? So you guys,
right.
Yeah,
you guys
yeah.
are walking in your lane for sure.
Well, you I think also mentioned you have what they call five aspects of grief.
Yeah. So most people are aware of the five stages of grief, and that was
Hmm.
Hmm.
Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's, which are beautiful, right? It's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. And
Hmm.
what most people don't realize is that was really meant for people who are passing. It was
Hmm.
really designed for someone in hospice.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Well, they're going through a whole different series of mindset adjustments and emotions than those of us who are mourning a loss. And as the
Wow.
two of you know, I've lost many people, but when I lost my son, I tried to adapt the five stages, and it frustrated me because first of all, I didn't have denial. I just couldn't get my head around it. I fully understood and I was resisting it, yes, but I really wasn't feeling like I was arguing with it so much
Hmm.
as in shock from it. So my 5 aspects are basically dealing with the shock, which I call getting your head around it. You know me, I like acronyms because then I got a handle. We can wield that pot in a lot of different ways. The second one is regrets, because every person who's lost someone, one of the first places their mind will go to is if only.
Regrets. Oh yeah.
Right? I wish, if I could have, if I would have, which is really important, by the way, for your sweet listeners who, if you don't want to have those regrets, we need to kind of change your mindsets about your present moment and being really present where you are, because it's really easy for that to get away from you, and then they're gone.
Right. When you have that time before, when it's not that sudden loss, yeah, that you can take the time to, right.
To be present.
How can you?
So then it's I stands for imagine the future without them. E stands for everyone else's responses. I was so shocked by how much that one aspect holds us back from our full healing of our grief, because everybody has an opinion and people say things kind of nonchalantly that can be really hurtful, and it brings up unfinished business, right? The time in the past when I lost someone and maybe didn't do all the grieving work, or someone said something equally, or it was that person, right? A lot of times it's the same person that just kind of keeps showing up to push the buttons. But so then it's the last aspect is really figuring out what I need to forgive. And most of what we do with grief is forgiving what we thought was going to happen, forgiving what we anticipated. You know, one of the things we'd kind of talked about in our notes back and forth was this idea of how we imagined it would be to be a caregiver. And I never imagined it. It never crossed my, even till that morning that I'm hiding in the front room, I'd never really imagined what is it like to be a caregiver person. And those things are rolling around in our subconscious, whether we're conscious of it or not. And if we can really face those feelings, which is, I know what you guys wanted to talk about, is if you just face them, a lot of times it's just acknowledging them and they're gone.
Yeah, we talk about this topic in many different aspects, but have touched on, we did a whole thing on feelings, and yeah, that we spend so much time doing and fixing, and how do we, where do we go? Where do we move them into? What support do we get? But yeah, our own. And I remember when you wrote your book, Jan, and we have a copy of that sitting here, Don.
Yeah.
Grief is Mourning Sickness, which we
You wanna
will
hold it up?
post we will
I was
post
gonna
it
say
on the but this amazing book. I remember when you wrote it, I worked with Jan. We had a writing group. We actually met together regularly, and because I remember you did some kind of group work, and my father had been diagnosed with Parkinson's, but it was an early diagnosis. And as an occupational therapist and someone who'd worked with people at end stage Parkinson's, there was a lot of grief when he got that diagnosis, because I anticipated what this future could look like. And I remember, talking about that grief is not always, it's not always, when someone dies, but what about the changes, the struggles, the diagnosis, Don had the massive heart attack, and I had a 2-year-old and a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old. And I was asking at the hospital, what kind of support is there? Well, if he had died, there would be, these different systems in place. But I'm like, these kids just went through this trauma, these young children. And so, yeah, thinking about, and people don't probably think of it as grief, right? It's just, you should be grateful, he's still here. He lived.
Those hurtful things that everyone says, right? Because that's not helpful. Just feel better. They're going to be fine. No, that doesn't address what I'm feeling. You said something so profound that I just want to kind of pull that out for a minute, is there needs to be systems in place.
Yeah.
Right? These hospitals and hospices and any of these caregiving places need what you guys are bringing, which is a system in place for support, to talk through all of this stuff. When I wrote that book, I was writing it as the observer. I found myself kind of stepping out of what I was experiencing and looking at how my mind was processing, and I kept trying to define grief. What is grief? And so the whole book is written in definition form. Grief is, right? Mourning is, for example, in the one that you're bringing up, it's an everyday experience. Every day we have some kind of trauma, loss, or change, and something that we didn't anticipate. And we're not prepared for a lot of these big things that are literally life changing. So I love that you're bringing up this idea of a system. I would love to see you guys get in cahoots with some of these hospice places, and not just for the member who's passing and the member who's being the caregiver and losing their spouse or their mother or whatever, but for the system. There is no system. It's so time. You guys, you're very,
Yeah.
very needed.
Well, when we focused on parents with, children and children's challenges, we always talked about, it affects the whole family. And this does too, and often even a broader
Absolutely.
sense. You've got siblings of, like, with my dad, I got my mom involved, all of the siblings, the grandkids, his siblings, and just all the different people involved that it affects. And everybody needs support, and everybody has a different experience with it, right? And can play different roles. We talk a lot about what people can do. Like, my brother's still in Pennsylvania, but yet he did things. Through his work, there was I can't think what it was called, but it was someone who kind of helped coordinate care services and things.
Mm,
And she met with us
wonderful.
virtually. And, he's like, I'll take care of finance stuff. And we kind of divvied up tasks to help out. Um, to help with. For a while, it was kind of the joke that he took care of mom and I took care of dad.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, and we would talk about, my brother and I are very open and just talking about dealing with it and the feelings and um, the struggles we felt. Because when you don't have that support, you just get into the doing, getting it done. And then there's tension. And then, you know, um, and then what are you left with afterwards? How have you affected those relationships with those other people in your life?
Well, and then the grief becomes a different process, right? Because if I'm not, one of the things that I adopted for myself was especially when our son died, and a little bit when with his mom, but it was a little bit of a different kind of grief. So
Mhm.
and if this is helpful for anybody, write it down, is I told myself every morning, no regrets
Mhm.
and no self-pity,
Mhm.
right? I had to learn to get out of that because it's so easy to slide into that feeling like I'm the victim of this situation instead of going, no, I made this choice. I made this choice. And then I could have more energy to be very present with them, because that's the worst kind of regret, is realizing you missed all the opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Is I would have missed the opportunity to give her maybe one of her first pedicures. It wasn't
Mhm.
very pleasant for me, but she loved it, right? I tried to learn to do something silly on the regular, like we had shimmy time. You can't be unhappy and shimmy for 5 minutes, right? I tried to, because I was present,
Yeah.
right? I learned to say, this is the only day I have. I don't know how many days. And it
Mhm.
wasn't very long. I don't know how many days. So even though in the middle of it, it might feel like this is going to go on forever, I promise you it won't.
Yeah.
Mm.
And we have to learn to take time to go, be here now, be really present right now, and plan my day in such a way that I'm really consciously in the moment and not just doing, like you say, doing. And sometimes we do that just to not think about it,
Yeah.
but it's not helpful.
I was so fortunate. We moved to Salisbury through circumstances. We wound up here, not really with a plan to come here, but financially, it's where we landed. And now I was further from my parents, and we realized it was a lot of my mom. And my dad was in and out of the hospital a lot. And I was
Mm.
driving down there. It was, even when we lived in Charlotte, it was still 40 minutes, depending on what hospital he wound up at. Um, and so we moved him here in June, and it was a blessing. He was a
Yes.
couple miles away. And we magically moved to where there's a continuous care retirement community right a mile away from us. And my mom wound up moving into an independent living apartment. And it happened very fast. And it happened
It's like
very
5 minutes from us.
quickly. But no, I just,
That's
from for my
fabulous.
mom. But we got
Well,
my
that's what I
dad
mean.
settled in a different assisted living facility. And then we knew we had to move him first from talking with different people. And there's actually a wonderful agency. Now I'm going to forget their name, that helps people downsizing, that helps people with moving. So that we got them involved to help move my dad first, and then my mom, and just knowing that was the best way to do that. But it was a blessing. He
Mm.
lived until October. So from June to October, I could go visit him, and I had some amazing moments. He loved 50s and
Mm.
60s music. and we would just sit and listen to music together. And he would tap his feet. And I have this beautiful memory. This is about a week before he passed. He's in his wheelchair. We're out on the front porch. The facility he lived in had this nice big front porch. And we're listening to the music. And he stands up at the porch, holding on to the balcony. And he's just kind of looking out into the distance. And um, it's just a beautiful memory because we connected with some other resident who came out at the same time. Um, and now when I listen to these songs, it just brings back. And I had the ability to be that present because um, we gave my mom that freedom to not be the caregiver. And yeah, I was in there and I was very involved in what was happening with his care, but I could also just be his daughter for a little bit and
Yeah.
just sit with him and enjoy the time together.
And notice that you weren't doing,
Yeah.
right? You're what a beautiful testimony of exactly what I'm speaking about is you were just present with each other and there wasn't an objective and there wasn't, right?
And that wasn't all the moments.
Oh, I totally get
Sometimes
that.
I would say, Dad, I'm not your daughter right now. I'm your occupational therapist, and we're going to get up. We're going to move. And yeah, there were, very different aspects but I loved those moments when I could
So precious.
just sit with him and just take that time. And, it was that he was that close. I mean, one
Yeah.
of us was there nearly every day
Oh,
for at least a little while. And it was
no
special.
regret, right? No regret.
Yeah.
That helps. That helped with the no regrets, which yeah, because you can't undo that. So I'm so
Mhm.
happy to hear that.
Yeah, my favorite time now that was before he moved, but that was down at his house, and he was in kind of a mood, and he was talking about his heart, and he looked over at me, knowing that I'd been through the heart attack,
Right.
and he said, "How did he put it?"
How do you know if you're having a heart attack?
And so I did a Wile E. Coyote. I held up a sign, and I didn't have it, but I was like, and I said,
Someone
"Help,"
holds up the sign that says, help, I've
says
had a
help.
heart attack, or
And yeah, and he about fell out of his chair laughing so hard, and he hadn't laughed
like that in a long time.
so
Oh,
that's my favorite moment with him. I mean, I
oh,
had some when he was at the nursing center, but that one was a fun one. Um, but we talked about being in that present moment, and one of the things that I've been trying to kind of figure out in my head is that a lot of time when they're in that caregiving place, the time factor, it's hard to wedge in moments of time for themselves. So how, you know, I've been trying to figure out how to even approach that, or how to, I don't want to make they talk a lot about doing seminars and things like that, which I can do through like some of the different associations, but how do you really get into them and find that time to do some of the things, like with mine is calming down and doing that kind of stuff.
For
That's what
people
I
to take the time, convince them that they need to take a little bit of time for themselves. Is that what you're saying, Don?
Yeah,
Like,
just how do you
so
figure
you're
that?
talking about the caregiver, right? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
person? Yeah, dude, that I think that's question $6 million question right there, right? But the first thing is to recognize, actually, I'm feeling prompted to say it differently. First of all, you not only deserve it, but it should be a
Yeah,
requirement.
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Right? Because you only have so much gas and you're not doing just the person, right? That's not the only thing going on in your orbit, I'm sure. That there is something else going on, that you got other life happening.
mhm.
So 10 minutes, right? 10
Yeah.
minutes to just go quiet. And I'm such a big believer, as you guys know, in prayer and meditation and tapping prayer and meditation, right? Of just really coming out of the world and
Hmm.
for 10 minutes, no scrolling, no TV, no caring for anybody. Put my feet in a bathtub. Sometimes that really helps because if you've got some water on your feet, it will help you feel a little more settled and soothed. But get this very quiet, right? There just needs to be 5 to 10 minutes. And there's no excuse because you can go to the bathroom. You can, right? Is we can talk ourselves out of doing those things,
Hmm.
Mhm.
but it's painful on us. It really is counterproductive to what we're trying to do because once our tank gets empty, you guys, I just saw somebody yesterday, maybe I'll see if I can find it, who had called 911 on herself
Mhm.
because whether I didn't catch if it was her child that was special needs or a parent or whatever, but she had reached her point and the husband was gone and the kids were screaming and dinner wasn't ready. And she just called 911 and God bless them. They showed up and there actually was a picture of her sitting on the front step just bawling with a police officer just talking to her. If we take care of ourselves just a few minutes every day, we won't reach that point. None of us
Mhm.
wants to get to that point where we're so desperate that
Yeah.
we're afraid we're going to hurt ourselves or someone else. And I don't know that she
Mhm.
really was, but hurrah for the helpers that showed up. And
And it's hard to ask for help. It
so hard. But you know, it's pride. It's the same thing we're dealing with the honorary adult who doesn't want us to take care of them. Is it's like, me do it, me do it. No, let's do it. If we could change the vernacular to we need a
Mhm.
village. We need that support. We need
Hmm.
friends and help. None of us are really set here to be, it's a relationship. None of us are really set here to do it all on our own. And if we could shift even that little mindset, I think it would change so much. I don't know if it's that there's shame, or I'm looking really quickly over my situation. Part of it was the frustration that I was all in and felt like others weren't,
Mhm.
Hmm.
right? And your listener will fully get that of how come 90% of it's on me, right? And no self-pity, right? Stop it. That's not a helpful thought. And then I
Mhm.
go, okay, what can I do? Write that in big bold letters across your mirror. What can I do differently so that I feel sustained? And it's going to mean being okay with letting other people love you, serve you,
Mhm.
help you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the tough.
Yeah, a good example of that. So my dad, we moved him up here, but he lived from June to October up here in Salisbury. He was in that hospital 5 times, only admitted twice, and one of them, Don had just driven out to Missouri with Abby, taking our middle child to go visit family, and Dad winds up in the hospital. And I'm pretty sure it was this time because I was talking to my brother, and he's like, if things get really bad, if you really need me, I can come up there. And it wasn't very long when I went, you know what? This is really bad.
Good.
And I'm like, I do need you. And
Oh, good.
there was another time because we got him settled up here, and then my mom was like gone. She was so busy packing and getting, she just dove into what she had to do, and that was just her coping strategy. And there was a
Yeah.
point where I had to be like, Mom, you need to come up here. I need you involved in this. I need you. Um, but just realizing those times that you need to know your limits. And it felt like a huge aha moment because then he told me,
Yeah.
when things get really
And
bad, and I'm like, well, when is really bad?
and let people love you before it gets really bad,
Yeah.
right? Because that's all what we're talking about is any act of service that we're giving like this is an act of love. And even the scripture says it's more blessed to give than receive. And that's backwards. If
Yeah.
nobody's willing to receive,
Hmm.
nobody gets blessed, right?
Well,
I'm too proud.
you know, I say because in the work I do, I get a lot of what I call people pleasers that
Oh
love
yeah.
to give,
Yeah.
And one of the things I tell them, and I try to saying it's not a thing about them, but just to think about in their mind is think about how much of a blessing it feels for you when you help somebody else.
Absolutely.
And if you're asking somebody to do something, if you don't ask them, then you steal that warm place, that blessing, all that kind of stuff. I said, just have it in the back of your mind. So when you ask, you can put that out there and say, I'm giving this person a blessing to come in and help me do whatever I need to be done. And that most people don't think about that.
Right.
That's
That's
powerful.
exactly that boy, that's beautiful. And that is it, right? Is recognizing that we all want to serve and give and
Well, and then I also talk about you have to also retrain everybody around you that you
yes.
train not to give to you.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
said that's going to be the difficult thing, telling, calling them and saying, you know what, you didn't support me before or whatever, and I really need your support now, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a real shift a lot of times for people to even think about that.
And,
That's
Don, I'm going to use that because I have lots of people I work with. I work now at an independent living community, and
mm,
so these people, some of them have early dementia and other things, and they don't want to burden their family. But that's a beautiful thing. I'm glad you brought that up because I know several that would be like, it would be a little bit of an aha moment for me to say, well, you know what? Them helping you, it feels good. Describing that as far as how it feels when you care for someone else and knowing that it's sort of a gift when you ask for their help that they can.
mm,
Well, then yeah, I take it a little further because then you have to be able to accept yes and no.
Mhm.
if you ask somebody something and they say no, and they do it in a good way, not in a I ain't doing anything for you kind of thing. But if they say no, that's a very strong person that can say, I'd love to help you, but I can't. And for those that say yes and don't really mean it,
Yeah.
that's their problem, not yours.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's this communication we have to kind of change with that philosophy or that way of thinking. So, um,
Yeah, I've said that to some clients recently. I said, you can ask your grown children to help you. Sometimes it's even grandchildren. They're adults. They can decide for themselves, yes or no, whether they can help you or not. And that's their responsibility, not yours, to make that decision.
Well, and it's kind of unfair for us to assume they wouldn't do it,
Mhm.
right?
yeah,
That's a little egotistical if we're just deciding, oh, well, they wouldn't, or that how do I feel when nobody gives me a vote, right? I want to vote. Don't judge, because then they're going to kind of hold that judgment in the back of their mind of, well, I thought about it, but I think they wouldn't. I wait, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you know?
Or I don't want to be a burden on them, and yeah, I think as tough as things are, I still believe that society itself loves to give. That they
Yes.
don't mind giving to people. Sometimes it can be a little bit much, but that's I think it's still a good part of our life that I hope we can hold on to that too.
Absolutely. I agree.
So we're all saying,
I'm looking through the different topics. As we're talking about this, just want to invite you, Jan, if there's some other aspect of this that we didn't touch on so far that you want to make sure um, that we cover here. Just thinking about dealing with this, the stress, the anxiety, the grief of being in the middle of caring for a loved one, not only during it, also after someone does pass and those process and steps with that. Um, and how we can best support people and best give information and coping strategies like we talk about with tapping.
Right. I'm thrilled that Don, that you're doing sessions and that you're helping, because I am of the impression, this is totally me, but I feel like there's something, we do wonderful work in tapping sessions, and I always think of it as tapping into wisdom, right? As we
Mhm,
have these changes of perceptions that changes everything. But there's something so important about having someone hold the space for you. And
mhm,
especially after you've poured yourself out for a week, 6 months, 12 years. My sister-in-law did it for almost 20 years. I can't imagine. And so the first thing I would really encourage people to realize is it shouldn't really be something we feel resistance to, guilt. I'm not sure why people won't reach out to have a session or have help. Maybe because they don't quite understand the power of it.
Mm-hmm.
But just imagine your best conversation with your dearest friend. I know that when Don and when Gina's doing her work as well, when you guys are doing your work, there is a sacredness to the work because we're holding it
mhm,
heart to heart and soul to soul, not just
Mm-hmm.
story, not just a goal that we got to accomplish. That's what sets us apart, I think, from regular coaching, right? Is we're here
Mm-hmm.
for life. We're here to bring life to the situation, not just a new cognitive shift. That's only one piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the work that we do with the tapping removes it from the cellular memory. That, to me, it's like we have the most beautiful gift and power of being able to address not only the mindsets and the memories, the emotional body, but also the cellular body that's remembering the
mhm,
exhaustion, the loneliness, the moments of resentment, the anger. I had a couple screaming fights with my mom as well. I was not proud of it, but
mhm,
you reach a point, right? And honoring the memory of the person by recognizing that the faster you are restored, the more your life is going to be able to mean to more people, not only your own. But yeah, so I would just encourage people to really consider reaching out to you guys, and even if it's just for consultation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Put together a group of their own. They've got a whole family. Why not meet in their living room? You can come
Mm-hmm.
in on Zoom, right? And just talk with them because you guys are
Yeah.
the experts, and it shortens the time. That's the thing, is otherwise it will be just drawn out and
Mm-hmm.
lingered on and kind of wallowed in, is what my mom would say. You don't wallow in it, right? Your life is so important and you've given so much. Let somebody honor you with giving back.
I love how you said when you work with, like an EFT practitioner, that they're holding the space for you. So I think I went to your first training, EFT training,
Yeah.
to become an EFT level one. And so I've learned these tools and I know them and I've used them, and yet it is more powerful. I've worked a lot with Ruthie over the recent years. When someone is there with you and, like you said, holding that space,
100%.
it's just even more powerful. I can do it all on my own as much as I want to, and yet it's more than a therapy session. Like it's I don't yeah, you're doing the work, but having them to kind of witness to what you're experiencing is very, to me,
Well,
empowering.
and just like I was saying when I was writing the book, having someone that's on the outside of the feelings,
Mm-hmm.
they'll
Mm.
see stuff that you can't see. They'll,
Mm-hmm.
and we tap into wisdom. So there will be an insight. Like a couple of times in this conversation that I had a feeling that we needed to talk a different way. Having someone that can hold that, they're showing me a flashlight, right? It's like they're holding a flashlight and seeing things that we can't see for ourselves. I had a client, Steve, I can't remember his last name. I apologize for him. But he said, it's like being in a painting and trying to solve the problem. You can't
Mm-hmm.
see the painting.
Yeah.
You can only see where you're seeing. And that clicked for me of having someone outside that can see the whole picture,
Mm-hmm.
pick up on things that you might not have even been aware of were the problem, and definitely holding that space, that loving space of I'm not trying to fix you. That's not our attitudes at all. It's like I'm trying to love you better, right? Is I want you to feel more love in yourself and honored. Good night for the sacrifices and the blood, sweat, and tears that went into all these years of however long they were taking care of somebody. So,
Sure.
so
Yeah,
important.
we've done some interviews recently with people who um, help someone determine, what care would be best for their loved one, whether it's finding a facility, whether it's aging at home. And
Mhm.
they consult with you. And we talked to these people after my dad passed, and I was like, even with all my experience as an occupational therapist and working in all these settings, it would have been helpful to have that person on the outside to offer, some additional insight and ideas. And just kind of thinking about that. You can feel like you're an expert in one area, but you can't step back from it because you're in the middle of the painting and you can't see
Yes.
the big picture.
Yeah.
I get a lot of people. This happens quite often. People, how did you come up with that? You know, I'm like, it was really your words. I just saw them, and yeah, that always kind of surprises me in a way. But a lot of the stuff is the same stuff, kind of over and over again in a way. But anyway, well, we've talked a lot about tapping. Do you want to add a small like
Mm.
little segment of it in?
What would be helpful for you guys right now to do a little bit of tapping? Is there something overwhelm, frustration? Because I feel like your listener is going to be in the same energy of because we just need the little starter phrase, right?
Right.
And then I do believe that wisdom and spirit take over and
Let me get the list out.
So what's popping in my head is
Yeah.
time management and just taking time. How do we fit these pieces into our day? Whether it's connecting, like now, my mother, she is 82, and yes, she's
yeah.
relatively healthy, but I don't want to regret things with her. We're growing, this business. I'm working at a job regularly. So just that aspect of time, like how do we make time for ourselves? Just that challenge of time.
Okay. How about you, Don? Might be completely different. It usually is, and that's okay because we'll just put it in the
Uh,
hat, as you know.
I guess mine's about communication. Gina and I have kind of talked about it. We need to work more on our communication with each other and building on that. I don't know, something about that. I think this is all the stuff it just seems like with us, it's one thing after another, after
Yeah.
another, after another, it just, and I think it kind of, I don't know if it draws us apart, but it just,
It's draining and
it's draining
it
and
builds up.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I think
Oh,
it too
absolutely.
kind of plays into what Gina's saying about time.
Right.
having time to talk with ourselves, having time to explain stuff, all that is part of that. So,
Perfect. So for your audience, whom I'm guessing are people who are also dealing with time and
Mhm.
just the stress of trying to fit it all in and figure it out and whatever, I would invite them to just take a moment and really tune into what would their theme be and how might it um, hook into this idea of time management and communication and just look at how much anxiety is there. It's interesting because time, what I'm getting a lot of impressions from spirit, as you know, and the first one is the recognition of time is moving too fast
Mhm.
yeah.
and the sense of out of controlness of time.
Mhm.
And so I'm almost seeing like the image of it's we've had this amazing snow during this week as we're doing this recording and people being pulled on sleds, right? It's kind of like we feel like we're being pulled by time and life instead of being in control of it. And especially for a caregiver, that can kind of feel like life is every day just pulls us.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
maybe if we just start with that as kind of a mental image and an energy, and if you guys want to put on your own little notepads, because we won't do a whole lot of deep work. I'm just asking spirit to come in and help us just soothe and come into alignment, head and heart.
Mhm.
And we'll just start with this. Even though it feels like
Even though it
Even though it
feels like
feels like
life is so chaotic,
life
life
is
is
so
so chaotic.
chaotic,
and I didn't plan for this,
I didn't plan
I
for this.
didn't plan for this.
right? I never imagined it would feel like this,
I
I
never
never
imagined it would
imagined
feel
it would
like
feel
this.
like this,
or that it was one thing after another.
or
Or it's
that it
one
was
thing
one
after
thing after
another.
another.
I deeply and sincerely honor
I
I deeply
deeply
and
and
sincerely
sincerely
honor
honor
that I'm doing the best I know how,
that I'm
I'm
doing the
doing the
best I know
best I know
how.
how,
and I can give myself some grace
I can
and I
give
can
myself
give
some
myself some
grace,
grace
and schedule some time
and
schedule
schedule
some
some
time,
time
so that I can be grounded and calmer.
so
be
that I can be
grounded and
grounded and
calmer.
calmer.
Let's take a nice deep breath. So one thing that we do know is when our mind is all busy, there might not be much actually happening, but our mind is so busy that we think there's so much happening,
Mm-hmm.
right? As we get in such a loop and a routine that we forget, and I'm a shutdowner. I was just telling Michael about that before we got on the phone, is I get too much and my response isn't fight or flight, mine is freeze, right? So I just,
Mm-hmm.
and so everybody kind of needs to figure out what does their amygdala do to them? How do you respond? Do you get into that fight? Do you run away? Do you, scroll, whatever? Or do you just freeze? So that's
Mm-hmm.
important somehow. Even though there's this part of me
Even though
Even though
there's
there's
this
this
part of
part
me
of me
that feels like I'm out of control,
that
that
feels
feels
like
like
I'm
I'm
out of
out of
control,
control,
I'm asking my inner wisdom
I'm
I'm
asking
asking
my
my
inner
inner
wisdom
wisdom
to show me where I'm more empowered
to
to
show
show me
me
where I'm
where I'm
more
more
empowered
empowered
than I might be imagining.
than
than
I
I
might be
might be
imagining.
imagining.
And perhaps the first step
And
Perhaps the
perhaps the
first
first
step,
step,
is I've acknowledged the concern
I've
I've acknowledged
acknowledged
the
the concern.
concern,
and I want to give myself permission
I'm
and
going
I
to give
want to
myself
give myself
permission
permission
to sit with the challenge
to
to
sit with
sit
the
with the
challenge
challenge
just silently
just
just
silently.
silently.
or listening to 50s music. I remember what kind of music you listen to,
Yeah,
right? But that's such a
listen,
perfect space is just listening to music and letting it all and
just
let it all settle, right? That's
Let
really
it
the
all
key.
settle.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nice deep breath. So even though it feels stressful,
Even though
Even
it
though it
feels
feels
stressful,
stressful,
overwhelming,
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 too much,
too
too
much,
much.
I didn't plan for this,
I
I
didn't
didn't
plan
plan
for
for
this.
I
this.
don't want to do it.
I
I
don't
don't
want to
want to
do
do
it.
it.
I honor all these feelings.
I
I
honor
honor
all
all
these
these
feelings.
feelings.
They're signals
They're
They're
signals
signals
that I'm out of balance.
that
that
I'm
I'm
out of
out of
balance.
balance.
Take a deep breath. As you know, I add a few points. I don't know if you use them all. Top of the head, allowing myself
Allowing
Allowing
myself
myself
to just feel the feelings.
just
just
feel the
feel the
feelings.
feelings.
Take a nice deep breath. Here we go, between the eyes. Allowing myself to look at it from a different perspective.
Allowing
Allowing
myself to
myself to
look at it
look
a
at it
different
from a different
perspective.
perspective.
Nice deep breath. Side of the eyes. Maybe I don't have to do so much every day.
Maybe I
Maybe I
don't
don't
have to
have to
do so
do
much
so
every
much
day.
every day.
Deep breath. Under the eyes. What would happen if I gifted myself
What
What
would
would
happen if
happen
I
if I
gifted
gifted
myself
myself
20 minutes a day
20
20
minutes a
minutes a
day
day
just for me?
just for
just for
me?
me?
Everybody take a breath. Tell me how that felt when you just had that thought. Any feedback? Any shift? Any can't do that? Oh, that would be wonderful.
Mine was that, can't do it in
That
20 minutes. Are you kidding me?
right. How about you?
Well, for me, it's because I freeze and then I disappear in a game, but it's not really taking time for me. So
Yeah.
that, like, consciously choosing, I'm now going to write or whatever, you know.
Under the nose. It's okay to feel like I can't
It's
Okay
okay to
to
feel
feel
like
like
I
I can't
can't
and do it anyway.
and
and
do
do it
it
anyway.
anyway.
Come to your chin. Maybe I need to sneak up on my ego mind,
Maybe
Maybe
I
I
need
need
to
to
sneak
sneak
up on
up
my
on my
ego
ego
mind.
mind
collarbone, and just set things up the day before
Just
and
set
just
things
set
up the
things
day
up the day
before
before
and not think about it
and
and not
not
think
think
about
about
it.
it
because that brings up the resistance,
That
because
brings up
that
the
brings up the
resistance.
resistance.
right? I'm seeing a pattern is what they're showing me is under the arm. What if I did the don't blink, don't think rule of Jan?
What if I did the
Don't
don't blink, don't
don't
think
blink.
rule?
Okay.
Yeah,
I
it's
lost
don't
that one.
blink, don't
Don't
think,
blink. Don't think.
don't think, bottom of the ribs, and that's just sit down and do it,
Just
Let's
sit
just
down
sit
and
down
do
and
it.
do it.
right? Put on a meditation. Get that tablet out. Just
Get
brain
that
dump.
brain
Yeah,
dump.
top of the head, releasing
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 this idea
this
this
idea
idea
that sacrificing my life energy
that
that
sacrificing
sacrificing
my
my
life
life
energy
energy
is somehow virtuous.
is
is
somehow
virtuous.
virtuous.
Between the eyes, there's no awards for burning out,
There's
There's
no
no
awards for
awards for
burning out.
burning out.
right? Caregivers, are you hearing me? Side of the eyes. Nobody's gonna all hail you because you died
Well,
taking
hell
care of somebody.
There's no gold medal for burning out. Yeah, because
yeah.
if so, I would get it.
Right. Under the eyes. I've pre-qualified multiple times
I've
I pre-qualified
pre-qualified
multiple
multiple
times.
and I'm
times.
still waiting for the dang parade.
I'm
I'm
still
still
waiting
waiting
for
for the
the
dang parade.
Under the nose. I need to give myself the parade.
I
I
need to
need to
give
give
myself the
myself the
parade.
parade.
Come to your chin. For somebody, that might mean grabbing a cup of coffee,
For
Grabbing
some,
a cup of coffee.
yep,
right? Collarbone. For somebody else, it might mean stepping outside for 15 minutes.
Stepping outside for
stepping
15
outside.
minutes.
Ooh, everybody take a breath. Something shifted there. Under the arm. Communication gets better when I'm grounded,
Communication gets
Communication gets
better when
better
I'm
when I'm
grounded.
grounded.
right? Bottom of the ribs. When I'm centered and calm, everything
Mm.
gets easier.
When I'm
When I'm
centered and
centered and
calm,
calm,
everything gets
everything gets
easier.
easier.
Top of the head. This is my favorite round, and I'm hoping this will be blessing. I'm telling my mind to be quiet.
I'm
I'm
telling
telling
my
my
mind to
mind
be
to be
quiet.
quiet.
And I really want you to get it like we're just tapping the brakes. Shh, between the eyes. I'm going to focus on the next breath. Take a breath.
Good breath.
Notice your shoulders drop. There we go. Side of the eyes. I'm just telling my mind, just be still.
Telling my mind to just be still.
Nice deep breath. Under the eyes. Telling my body, I'm safe.
Telling my
Telling my
body I'm
body
safe.
I'm safe.
All is well.
All is
All is
well.
well.
We'll figure it out as we go.
We'll figure it out as we go.
And the nose, telling all the parts of me, be right here.
Telling
Telling
all
all
the
parts
parts
of
of
me to
me to
be
be
right
right
here.
here.
Right? Don't be thinking about next step or tomorrow or dinner or just be right here. Say it again. There we
Be
go.
right here.
Right here.
Come to your chin. I'm bringing all of my energy and attention right
All
here.
my attentions
Bringing all my
right
energy
here.
and attention right here.
Collarbones. I just want to take 2 minutes
Just
I
want
just
to
want
take
to take
2 minutes.
2 minutes
and soothe my soul and body
and
Soothe my
soothe my
soul and
soul
body.
and body.
under the arm. Maybe I'll even feel love in my heart
Feel love
Maybe
in
I'll
my
even
heart.
feel love in my heart
and let it spread.
Let
and
it
let it
spread.
spread.
Right. Quiet mind,
Quiet
Quiet
mind.
mind,
healing body.
Healing
healing
body.
body.
Let's just take a minute right there. Relax your hands. You guys are all pros at this, so you might not have this experience, but some people might be feeling a little dizzy almost because they went from chaos to quiet, or the hands humming, or
My
right.
hands are a little bit tingly. Yeah.
Good. Get the energy going. So what if we could make a date with yourself? Would you make an agreement with me that every day, 7 minutes, pick a weird number, 22 minutes, right? Pick a weird number that you're just going to do something like this. Just be still.
23 and a half minutes.
3.5 minutes, right? That's huge because once we train ourselves to do that, it happens in a minute, and then we have 2 minutes of restoration. Because that's really, we know that we're restoring our nervous system and our mindset. We're
Mhm.
giving our mind more energy in that moment that we're turning it off. It's like, imagine going how many days without sleeping. Our mind needs to have that moment of feeling like it's meditating and praying and sleeping too. It needs to be, it needs a shut off valve. And to me, that's what tapping is. It's a great shut off valve. So
Mhm. Hmm. I felt the after when we relaxed our hands and just as you know,
perfect.
Jan, I worked with Jan way back when. We both worked with other people doing tapping. And yeah, there's always surprise in the shift sometimes that
And again, you guys are experts, but having someone else love you and kind of lead the conversation so that you don't even have to think about that.
Hmm.
That's really powerful sometimes. I'm such a big believer in coaching and cross coaching that yeah, I love that you've been meeting with someone. I encourage you both to find someone that you can just because it doesn't take an hour, 10 or
Yeah.
15 minutes, right?
yeah.
Of just and then you can put it on your calendar and feel like you did something.
And I love that, you took us through what we are Don and I are, our own experiences of what we find that we're struggling with because you're so right. I remember going to group sessions with you and borrowed benefits, even though
Huge.
the language and the words might be different for a different people, that it can be beneficial to everyone. Don was doing some group tapping sessions online, and even if other people aren't speaking up and putting in their input, just the benefit of, because in some ways our experiences, have overlap, they have similarities.
Well, and the beautiful thing is when we're in a kind of that quiet place, it's there's a spiritual metaphysical law called the law of adaptation, which is every one of us can watch a movie
Mm-hmm.
and our mind is processing it different than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
We're seeing, we're picking up on things, whatever. And the beauty of doing this kind of tapping is nobody's telling you what to think or what to feel.
Mm-hmm.
And your mind can then, your spirit really, to me, it's more like a soul depth thing of starts coming up with, there will be wisdom moments because the law of adaptation says we're going to take this story and because it's not me on the hot seat,
Mm-hmm.
I get to be over here and kind of relax, right? As I don't feel self-conscious or like I have to have an answer or produce. And that's one of my favorite things about doing group work is that everyone is taking it in their own language sometimes, right? They'll
Mm-hmm.
hear, I've had people come up to me afterwards and tell me something, and I'm like, I didn't say that, but it worked for them. So
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's, sharing stories with my brother and sister, my dad's last months of life. Our own experiences with the same parents were different.
completely.
And
Yeah.
just kind of interesting hearing their takes on things and like, wow, I didn't experience mom that way. Or, um, yeah. And we're all I mean, I tell our teenage daughter this all the time. She's like, you just don't understand. And I'm like, no, I can understand what it's like to be you. I can listen. I can validate your feelings. I can try to imagine, but no one understands,
Right.
what you particularly, any one person were because
Boy,
we
that is, and could I just say that for your listeners, especially the caregivers, if we're waiting for somebody to get it,
Mm, no.
we're gonna be right. We're gonna be hopelessly waiting because I've seen that happen. Of even when I'm conversing with someone in real grief and trauma, is they're waiting for me to get it instead of going, can I hold what I can hold for you?
mm-hmm,
Right? As I'm given all the words and we're getting it right, but there's that part of their being that want no, you're not okay. So what a great idea for them to really try on is, am I waiting for someone to understand?
right.
Because if I am, I'll be then they're not common. I hate to tell you, it's just it doesn't quite work that way. And I love that you're able to tell Abby that
I was like, it's actually our youngest is 17 now. It's actually Lexi. Yeah, yeah, and, it's been no
I can't
race
get
to
my head around that one, but okay.
a teenager. Yep, she just turned 17.
Abby's
Wow.
23 now,
Great.
so I mean,
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
she says that, you just don't get it. And it's like, no, I don't
And
get
so
it.
maybe try the question, what could I say that would help you feel more comfortable that I don't get it?
Yeah. And
Right?
what can I do for you right now? Yeah.
Yeah, what could
I
I
like that. What can I say that would help you?
help you understand that I might not get it exactly, but I'm here for you, right? I want to hold that space with you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a very powerful conversation. I mean, we could probably go on for quite a long time on this, but as we kind of wrap up here, um, you know, first of all, let us know, the audience know. We'll put this out there too, but let them know how they can find out more about you
The work
and
you've done.
and
We'll
your
share
work you've done.
your book and
And then, like I say, if you have some things that you might want to put out there for people that they can grab from your store, I think it is.
Absolutely. My main webpage is janluther.com. And if there is someone that wants to do some sessions, I'm happy to do that there. We've kind of been doing this last year is we've been gleaning all the stuff that I've done over the last 26 years and trying to productize it, right? Is make it, there's only one of me, right? And trying to figure out a way to make it available to people 24/7, right? Is I've joked with you guys a lot about having a product or a download is like having Jan on call, right? So you can have me 2 a.m. I just see the value of that, especially when like we're talking about, lives are so busy, but at 2 a.m. if I can't sleep, if I could go do a meditation for 10 minutes and get myself back in alignment. And so that's what I would encourage them is there's my storefront is called Stan .store/Jan Luther. And every month we're trying to add more content of either understanding our mindset and the thing I call the ego, which is the old programs, dealing with grief. We'll be adding a lot of that. I have some on business because, as you guys know, I've done a lot trying to help people get out of their way of growing a business, and then more of the spiritual stuff, really combining. It feels like I've kind of been on a trajectory here of had to heal my own emotional stuff, realize the power of the mindset and how that was driving it. Grief, hello, that showed up unexpected, right? And then understanding the power of what I'm just calling spiritual ascension, of recognizing that when we meditate, we kind of rise up out of the problem. And for whatever the faith of your listener is, whether that means having spiritual encounters or having guides and angel, whatever that means for the listener, that's a lot of what we'll be really offering and adding to the program as well. So, and of course, always I would just encourage these people to come to you because you are the expert in this lane. This is your lane.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank you,
that.
Jan. We appreciate this. Been a powerful session for us as well, hopefully for our listeners, and that it'll be forever able to access this, as people can access our podcasts. So thank you so much for joining us here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So thank you for joining us today for our podcast. We hope that you enjoyed the conversation and let us know, any comments you might have that'll help us to encourage more conversations like this. We love to hear from you. Please take a moment to leave us a comment, share your thoughts. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share the podcast with someone who might benefit from them. If you're finding it difficult to stay calm during your day, or if panic and overwhelm are becoming more frequent for you, we want you to explore Don's Discovery series. EFT is often described as weird. After a few sessions, their reactions to shift come from, wait, tapping does what? To, wow, look what AF did for me. And if you're navigating the challenges of caring for an aging loved one, be sure to visit our senior care page for our website for support, resources, and guidance. You can find us these wellness tips and caregiving insights on our website, focusedhealthyfamily.com. You can also connect to us on Facebook at focusedhealthyfamily.com, Instagram at focusedhealthyfamily1, and YouTube at Focused Healthy Family. And join us every Thursday when we put out this podcast. And you can find out more about our podcast at focusedhealthyfamilypodcast.com. And remember, how you speak to your children and your loved ones today shapes their future and yours.